Hi, I'm Morpho, and I watched a lot of disturbing movies, and there's only ever been a handful of times where a specific scene from a movie truly stuck with me, so today I'm here to talk about those scenes, and yes, you will notice a pattern. Just remember I'm not in therapy, and go easy on me, okay? Thanks. Nope is my favorite Jordan Peele movie, and every time I say this, somebody raises their pitchfork against me, and I understand the concern, but I shall speak my truth. I just cannot get over that alien design, and I don't understand how anyone actually did get over it. Am I the weird one for only being familiar with the green, slimy, skinny aliens, or the metallic, robotic aliens, or the cockroachy, shrimp aliens that we all have the hots for? Have you ever seen an alien that looks even a tiny bit similar to Jean Jacket in fiction before that you guys are so unimpressed with all this that you just stopped talking about it? Because I didn't stop thinking about it. We all know that one infamous scene in Nope. And I've been kind of haunted by the idea of being stuck inside a living creature since I first read about Jonah being swallowed up by a whale and having to live inside of it for 3 days. Strangely, Flapjack was one of my favorite cartoons as a kid, and I don't know what that says about me, but until Nope, I don't think any of these stories ever involved actual digestion. See, I was afraid of being stuck inside a living thing for a prolonged amount of time. I never thought about the possibility of being digested by the living creature. And now I do. I think about it a lot. Thanks to Nope. The Disappointments Room is a movie about a family moving into a new house for a fresh start after the tragic loss of their infant. The title stands for a secret room in the house that was used by the previous owners to lock up their disabled child because they were ashamed of her. Unfortunately, even though it has a pretty disturbing concept, the movie fails to build on it in an applaudable way, which was the very reason it put me to sleep all those years ago. However, I woke up randomly to see this scene. The mom of the family, Dana, puts her crying baby to sleep and lays down next to her on the bed and falls asleep. During the night, she accidentally covers the infant, which suffocates her. She wakes up to find her baby cold in her arms. I remember being confused and terrified. I had just opened my eyes and this was what I saw. I think it just made me realize how fragile babies actually are, because if it were even a toddler, she could have managed to move herself to a position where she can breathe, but babies just lay there like bricks most of the time. They truly are at the mercy and care of the adults around them, and I had never thought about it before then. I didn't even know this was a possible outcome of sleeping with your baby. I would think that a baby sleeping with her mom would be the safest place a baby can be, but I guess not. And soon I would learn about how they can even suffocate because their blanket covered their nose. Babies really can't do shit. I've been scared to hold a baby ever since I watched this movie, and while I was growing up, my mother was a nanny, so I've been around babies and toddlers when I was a small child who was stupid and didn't know babies can die this easy. I put a baby to sleep many times as a 9-year-old to help my mom, and yes, she would check up on him after, but what if I put his blankie a little wrong? Then what? His parents were surgeons. They would have been able to afford a good lawyer. Imagine me in prison at age 9 because of this. Even worse, the baby also had a 6-year-old sister who was really fucking stupid, stupider than me, if you can believe that, and didn't get along with her brother at all. Like, she was jealous of him and would hurt him on purpose. Like, genuinely, this girl would sit on this baby and fart on his face. At 6-year-old, she was already evil at 6-year-old. If she had this piece of information at that age, I'm telling you, that baby would have been gone in smokes. I guess though, at the end, what I'm trying to say is I'm scared of babies, and I don't think they have a good design. They should start evolving as soon as possible and fix all of these bugs and glitches that they have and make Boss Baby a real thing. Because under these circumstances, when the risk is this high and economy is crashing, I don't think any of us should reproduce. I mean, we're talking 9 freaking months here. 9 months, people. They're inside of a womb, kicking away all day long, and now that they're out, they're suddenly against domestic violence and can't kick their mom? Or even a goddamn blanket off their face, which is already like 1/10 of the size of an actual blanket. Why is it so hard? You worked those quads for 9 months for moments like this, idiot. You made your dad think you were gonna be the next Messi, but instead, you're just a mess. Despite the really bad acting and writing and directing and just bad intentions overall, Megan is Missing has its realistic moments. Teen girls who are used to being taken advantage of by others do sometimes develop hypersexuality. They do sometimes start treating themselves as things to be used and abused because the adults in their lives who are supposed to take care of them and teach them any better aren't doing their jobs. And yes, the internet is full of predators because the world is full of them. Would you believe? These real moments, however, don't end up making a sensible movie, but instead an exploitative one with a really stretched out sexual assault scene in it. But most notably, the movie also contains 2 photographs that I'm sure no one who has watched it has been able to erase from their memory, and that is true for me as well. I watched this movie just a few years ago, and at that point I had already seen more than my fair share of assault scenes in movies because there's just an overabundance of them for some reason. Let's discuss why that is. And not even just in horror movies. Like, if a piece of media requires their female character to go through something painful, these women always end up experiencing the same thing. But in horror, obviously even more so since there's a whole goddamn subgenre dedicated to this shit, which makes it really hard to ignore seeing it at least once or twice if you want to watch a horror movie. And because of this, that long scene of Amy being assaulted wasn't something I couldn't handle, but the barrel pictures of Megan were. What makes those pictures so disturbing to me is that you can't fake that. There's no way to fake it. You can't simulate it. The actress really had to be put into that exact position and have her pictures taken for those photographs to exist. As if that wasn't bad, finding out the actresses were underaged during the filming of this movie makes everything even worse. I mean, this dude really made a teenager do a photo shoot basically and put that in his movie, and then released the movie when the actresses were of age, and then claimed the movie is a PSA about internet predators. How the hell does that work exactly? Did people just give up completely on self-awareness? What's going on? I'm not sure what's up with the law or how this movie was even released, to be honest with you. Like, what kind of a loophole exists that I'm not aware of. But I think I'll always regret watching this crappy movie for a multitude of reasons, but this being the biggest. Ghostwatch is a mockumentary that aired on BBC on Halloween night in 1992. The whole movie is presented as a live ghost hunting television program, and in my humble opinion is one of the greatest hoaxes ever. The story is pretty similar to the case of the Enfield poltergeist. A single mom and her 2 daughters experience strange phenomenons in their family home, and the idea is that there's a ghost that troubles these young girls in particular. It is a fun movie, and it does make you at times forget it's not actually legit, but the real kicker is the identity of the ghost himself. In one scene, one of the girls is alone in a room in the house, and she suddenly starts screaming that the ghost is hurting her, that the ghost is touching her. A moment later, the host receives a call from someone who claims that the man who used to live in that house was a pedo. So just when you're thinking you can eradicate these motherfuckers like the pest that they are, you are telling me they can come back as ghosts? As ghosts. And just keep doing... Do the children get to win? Ever? Usually ghosts are presented as vengeful spirits or dead people who can't lay in peace for one reason or another, but this was the first ghost movie I watched where the ghost is causing harm on others for his sick fantasies, so there was no doubt it was gonna stick with me. It is shocking, and it is way more realistic than a ghost wanting revenge for their demise, but attacking innocents that had nothing to do with it the entire time. I don't think it's ridiculous at all that the people watching this live were in distress and traumatized and needed therapy. In the movie Seven, there is a serial killer who picks his victims by the sins they commit to send a message to the world that they have strayed away from God's path. Not him though. Torturing and murdering are not sins. They're cool. I've heard that they happen a lot in the Bible. To give out examples, he picks an obese man and forces him to eat until his stomach explodes for gluttony. He ties up another man to his bed so he eventually starves to death for Sloth. But I think the worst death in the movie by far was the infamous Lost one. The killer makes a man wear a latex bodysuit with a strap, but instead of a toy, there's a huge knife attached to it. He forces this man on gunpoint to assault an adult worker until eventually she passes away in one of the most brutal ways imaginable. Even though we are not shown the actual crime happening, the elaborate murder device combined with the incredible acting during the interrogation scene, it just has a way of seeping into your skin. They both got the shitty end of the stick. I mean, I want to argue the woman had it worse and she did for a while, fucking obviously. But the man now has to live his life with the whole thing stuck inside his head. And the question is, I guess, can you? I mean, the only good thing about the outcome for this dude is that he has a choice to die in a less painful way. I don't even want to imagine the pain the woman had to endure during those moments, but I always find myself imagining what I would do if I was the man in that scenario. Would I say yes or would I say no? Because the thing is, you either do it and suffer for the rest of your life with the mental images and the flashbacks and the guilt, the shame, you have a family and friends, how do you even explain that you did this to someone? Or you refuse to do it, you get a bullet in the head, and the psycho just goes and finds someone else to do what you couldn't. I mean, there's no argument here. I feel like most people would say no. I would say no. But the point is, this situation, there's just no winning. Because how do I live knowing I did what I did? I can't. So I have to say no, which is another inescapable situation. Because I lose my life either way. It doesn't matter if I say yes or no. I still die. Oculus is a movie that revolves around siblings Kaylee and Tim trying to recover from their childhood trauma. When they're about 12, their dad brings home an antique mirror. But of course it's not a regular mirror, it's an evil mirror. Their parents suffer from hallucinations because of it, and one night all hell breaks loose, so Tim has to kill his dad. But catch this, it wasn't him. It was the evil mirror, which is what he tells the police, but no one believes him, so he's sent to a mental health institution and grows up there. When Tim is finally released, the siblings reunite and Kaylee convinces him to go along with her ridiculous plan. They lock themselves in a tiny room with the same mirror that turned their parents into glowy-eyed VR freaks, surround themselves with cameras to catch this bitch in 4K. Because that night they made a promise that they would prove his innocence when they grew up, and Kaylee took that incredibly seriously, and now here we are. But hey, it's not all bad, because guess what? They have a kill switch for the mirror. If things go south, this giant metal thing smashes it, and yay, they are rescued. In theory, they completely forget that this thing makes people see things that aren't there, but instead of anime girls, you just see stuff that messes with your head. In this particular scene, Kaylee is changing the light bulbs in the room as she's snacking on an apple. She puts the spare light bulb and the apple next to each other on the table. She finishes what she's doing, and we see her hand reach for the apple, turn around, and bite into it. The gurgling sounds Kaylee makes combined with her shocked face and her bloody mouth, and you realize what just happened. Dude, this was like the worst shit ever to me. And around the time I watched this movie, there was like a stupid picture circling around of a guy who stuck a whole ass light bulb into his mouth and couldn't get it out. I would just die inside every time I came across that thing on social media, so this was really bad timing for me. I watched this movie in 2014. And since 2014, you know what I've never done? Bite into a fucking Granny Smith because I'm too scared it's gonna turn out to be a light bulb instead. I don't even bite into apples next to light bulbs. Why would that happen? I don't know. My brain doesn't understand it. I have to slice my apples. I get uncomfortable when people bite into whole apples in front of me. I have to look away. If I'm reading a book and a character is biting an apple, forget about it. I'm no longer reading that book because I can't take it. High school was really tough. I had to eat brown and dehydrated as hell apples at lunch at school. And it wasn't even the light bulb. She hallucinated because of the mirror. It was still the apple. She was eating the apple. She bit into the apple, and now I'm traumatized and can't bite into apples. How does that make sense? If you're not familiar with the Wrong Turn movies, every single one of them has the same formula. A group of young people go somewhere they shouldn't and then get chased by a family of antisocial human munchers. The fourth movie is my favorite though, not because it's the best one, but because it's set during winter on a snowy mountain. I was so used to watching horror movies set in summer with half-naked characters, so this was shockingly new, and that made it a little special, I think. At the end of the movie, 2 characters survive, and both get on a snowmobile together to escape. As they're laughing and riding down this mountain, a wired booby trap suddenly slices their heads off, and they go up flying in the air. The thing is, in these movies, someone always ended up surviving, so their sudden death becomes even more unexpected when you know that fact. The scene isn't even scary, it doesn't really leave an impact on you besides shock that only lasts like a few seconds, but my paranoid brain now refuses to ride a snowmobile because I'm terrified that the exact scenario will happen to me the first time I put my ass on one of those things. However, good news is that I think God loves me because he created me to be way too broke to go on ski vacations, so I've never even seen a snowmobile up close before, so thank you, God. Okay, so right after finishing that series, I was like, what other movie has this type of plot? And unfortunately came across The Hills Have Eyes. This time, the human munchers live inside the caves in the desert and prey on a family traveling through there in their RV. Some cool differences to me at the time was the location being a full-on desert and the fact that they attacked the family under the blinding sun, which made me appreciate daylight horror, so I was enjoying this movie a lot at first, until I wasn't anymore. I think especially if you're a woman and you watch this movie, the chances are the RV scenes dug a hole in your soul. Thankfully for me, I don't remember the more violent scenes that happened, but I do remember the breastfeeding scene very clearly. I also think the reason why I have no recollection of the rest of the movie is because I was really young, and as soon as that scene started, my body kind of went numb. At that age, I was familiar with sexual violence in movies, but not that specific kind. I don't think my brain was able to process what was happening, so it just partially shut down instead. I don't remember what happened before or after. I don't even remember if I watched the sequel. I just sort of blacked out. And the only thing I remember from this movie is that godforsaken scene. I watched more brutal movies after that, but that scene is just so perverted that nothing has ever managed to make me feel as disgusted. It is just... freaks made this. Freaks. And they should be banished. They should go somewhere where humans don't live anymore. They just live with these motherfuckers instead. I don't like it. I hate it, actually. The Banshees of Inisherin is about 2 longtime friends having a fallout. Colum no longer wants to be Podrick's friend because he finds him to be simply boring. Podrick doesn't think that's enough of an explanation to end the friendship, and throughout the movie keeps pressing Colum on. Eventually, Colum gives Podrick an ultimatum that if he were to bother him one more time, he'll cut off his fingers. Podrick doesn't take this seriously because genuinely, who would in his place take that seriously? But turns out, Colum was completely serious about this. The scene where Colum comes down a hill with his fingers gone and is still bleeding, and he looks so big and so unbothered, as if he is this entity that haunts your land, and the way it's shot, combined with the score in the back and the vastness and the coldness of Ireland surrounding him, it is just insane to me. And I'm gonna be vulnerable here for a second, and I'm not sure if any of you will find this relatable at all, but when I'm overstimulated or angry, and people around me don't understand that I need to be just left alone for a moment, they don't take me seriously, I tell them to leave me alone, just give me a second, they don't do it, I want to just hurt myself really badly in front of them so that they leave me alone. They're these intrusive thoughts I get, and I'll never actually do them, I never have, but I still get these really visual images and disturbing ideas, right? So seeing Colum actually be pushed over that edge was surreal to me, and made this movie completely unforgettable. His action is also self-destruction and self-sabotage in their pure physical forms, since the reason he even goes for his fingers is because he's a violinist who was recently struck by this feeling that he has become old and his art has not left the island at all. So his ultimatum to Podrick serves as an excuse for him to blame his devastating failure on somebody else. And I'm familiar with that kind of thinking. I find Colm so similar to the parts of me I'm trying to fix in my adult age, and that image of him walking down that hill always pops up in my head now to kind of swat away the intrusive thoughts, not even because of his self-destructive actions and how lame I actually think they are, but because those actions had a ripple effect and caused a lot of pain on others, on innocents, for no reason at all. Like, all of that could have been avoided. That's kind of what pulls me back and grounds me in moments like that, where my mind decides to run on weird mode. So this movie is really special to me for that reason, and I had to mention it. Mustang revolves around 5 sisters who try to navigate life in a strict household that gets stricter by the day after their playtime with the local boys gets taken out of context by the people in their village and their uncle and grandma. First, they're no longer allowed to go to school. Then they're not let outside without either their uncle or grandma present with them, and then they're not let outside at all. Then they're married off one by one, and that comes with its own hardships like virginity tests. It's a really frustrating movie to watch because you're basically seeing these young girls as agencies being stripped away from them the entire time. So there's multiple scenes that will disturb you when you watch this movie, and you should watch this movie. But there's a scene that is just so ominous that when you see it, it kind of becomes hard to forget. One night, when all of the girls are in their beds, we see their uncle enter a room. Then we hear him unbuckle his belt. And then we hear the muffled but terrified sounds of a girl, who is then later revealed to be the middle child. Even though his actions drag this girl to kill herself, he doesn't stop and actually repeats this on a much younger sister. However, there's even scarier details in the second scene. The movie is narrated by the youngest sister, who is about 10 or 11 years old, and we see the events happening through her eyes, including these nights. And on that second night, she's sleeping with her back turned against the door, and she only wakes up and turns around because she feels that someone is in her room. And when she does face the door, we see her uncle silently walking away from her. Then she sees him open a door and make his way downstairs, and the girl hears him have an argument with his mom. That's how you learn that the grandmother is in the know, that her son is doing this to her granddaughters, but doesn't do anything to him apart from scolding him as if he's a naughty child whose only crime was to break a vase. She's like, "I told you not to do this again. Stop doing this. How many times has this man done this before and you know it and you did nothing? You just decided to marry these girls off with strange men that they didn't know? That was your solution to all this? Not kill the guy?" Interesting. I mean, this man causes one of the girls to die because of his actions, repeats it on like a 12-year-old. 12. Leaves her alone to try and clean her bloodied sheets. Right after that, he comes into the room of the youngest, who's like 10, but then decides against it last second, for some reason that we'll never know, all the while in the entire movie making the lives of these girls a living hell because they played with boys their age in a lake, which automatically makes them irredeemable whores. Just the sheer hypocrisy of this piece of shit, right? And the fact that it's unfortunately so realistic. That is the most tough to get through part of this movie. The quick scene of him leaving the youngest girl's room will forever haunt me because, one, we don't even know why he decided to do that. But also, if that scene was changed even a little bit, the movie would have wrapped up in a drastically different and ultimately worse way. And I think that's the reason why I can't stop thinking about it. And I feel like if you guys watch this movie, and like I said, you should watch this movie, you also won't be able to stop thinking about it.